All right, this is my second go live. That's my fault. Uh, but I'm actually live now tonight. Geology is Asgard Pass with Dr. Dick Zentner from Central Washington University, and him and a colleague do the Kolchak and Asgard Pass area, which is an absolutely amazing hike, and where you will actually see real live mountain goats, like in Minecraft, similar to. It's also a place where you need to be careful where you urinate because of said goats. I don't know if he'll cover this in this discussion, but this is a thing that park rangers will warn you about. The Enchantments Trail is a very special hike. There are certain segments of this hike that require you to have a pass. If you would like to camp in this area, it requires you to acquire a limited pass. There is a limited number of these passes to camp in this space because it's so ecologically special in the world that it's recognized as a thing that people need to be more cautious about. And so there's a lottery for these passes to go overnight in them. That said, you can through hike Asgard Pass. There's Kolchak Lake to Snow Lake or something that's down the mountain. So you go up Kolchak Lake, which is a beautiful hike, but it's something that people, moderate hikers, can do, and then you reach Asgard Pass, which is like 7,000 feet elevation gain in like 1 mile. It's almost straight up. You are definitely going to go up sections that are like hands and knees, and then once you're at the top, you're in what's called the Enchantments, and it's a very unique geological spot. It's also a very unique, like I said, ecological spot. So I'm really curious about this stuff, and then we're gonna play Minecraft. And the goal tonight is to make a road in the survival world, in Jody's world, to from our little starter base to that village that we encountered, which is an OG village that predates the Village and Pillage updates. So it's got a bunch of weirdo villagers in it, and a lot of really old village houses, and absolutely zero workstations, so we can terraform that village into a thriving metropolis, but keeping historical buildings, I think, is going to be something that I would like to do in that village. That said, let's get started with the geology lessons from Nick Zentner, and then I will get some Minecraft going.
Buddy, hiking today with Liz at Asgard Pass, Alpine Lakes Wilderness, the Enchantments, whatever you want to call them. 4,400 feet of elevation gained from the car. Come on, man. Barely made it up here, but we're eating our lunch, filming a short video, pretty much just a document that I got up here. I've never been up here before. I'm not a bucket list person, but I needed to get up here, and I'm glad that we were able to haul ourselves up here. Liz, of course, is a specimen, but major effort from me. Thanks for joining us. Let's flip you around.
This is a short video, so
I need to save most of my legs for the way down, but
let me queue up another one.
Let me just wander just a touch to give you a sense of this place. What's the geology? This is a geology video? Oh, I don't know. It's 91 million year old granite. What do you want? That's it. Everything you see. And everything we've seen all day. Parked at the Stewart Lake trailhead. Got up to Kolchak Lake. And you know, I could film a bunch at Kolchak Lake and on the way down and all that, but I gotta concentrate, man. This is major effort.
Yeah, it's no joke. That hike is wild.
Believe it or not, as I'm accustomed to saying in many of these videos, Ellensburg's right over the Ellensburg's right over the ridge. It seems particularly crazy because this is such an otherworldly place. And yet, we're not far from home. Bijou's napping in the air conditioning.
Yeah, Washington's crazy like that.
It's supposed to be in the high 90s today, Fahrenheit, and Of course, up here high we have a very refreshing, delicious breeze. All right, I think the last thing I'm going to do with you, yeah, I wasn't kidding, I'm not going to film much. Liz is ready to go, and it's going to take a lot of concentration on the way down. You're like, what are the names of the lakes? What are the names of the peaks? I have no idea. This is out of my scene for sure. Geologically, it's my scene, and yes, this is the granite that we will be talking about a fair amount this winter. I guess I'll just keep rolling with you for a couple more minutes and walk back without my pack to look down on Kolchak Lake. And it's clear enough today that I think we can see Mount Baker all the way up by the Canadian border.
Yeah, Asgard Pass
Bellingham,
is
of
such
course.
a beautiful spot.
And I'm pretty sure we could see Glacier Peak volcano as well, but
there's also a lot of rock climbing here
from today.
And so sometimes you see people who are free climbing some of those large peaks.
I'm going to finish filming just overlooking Kolchak Lake, dear. So I don't want to talk too much about the hiking experience here, except to say that it maxed out my effort, that is for sure. And it's going to take me the rest of the week to recover.
Yeah.
It's not really a trail going up Asgard Pass.
No.
It's just scrambling from cairn to cairn. And
Hopefully,
in some places,
hoping that the cairns are accurate.
Rather significant scrambling on all fours.
This is the one area,
which is not what I typically
as a hiker,
do.
Asgard Pass is one of the few places where cairns are maintained by the Park Service as a waypoint guide, and so
now we're looking back. Viewers, you can probably tell us
of their
the
marking
peaks
system,
here.
they just remove them.
I honestly don't know,
because they're
I've
really
seen a lot of
important
photographs
to
over the
the
years.
hikers, because the trail
and I'm facing the wind,
is not
so
like
maybe the
it's not like a path
wireless
in
mic's going to
Minecraft.
have trouble now, but
the trail up there is
I'll try
wild.
to zoom all the way to Glacier Peak for you.
I must have a piece of wood in here somewhere still.
That's the max zoom. That's as steady as I can hold it. You see that?
Yeah, that's Mount
White
Baker.
volcano on the farthest part of the horizon that's got kind of a flat top. That's Mount Baker volcano. And backcountry Gary, I'm sure, and others can tell us the names of these other peaks. I cannot. But you can see in the foreground, okay, I'm doing a little bit more geology. You see all that orange? That's the Ingalls Tectonic Complex, or the Ingalls Ophiolite, where Bob Miller and I were hiking a little more than a week ago, looking this way. And it's the Windy Pass thrust is right beneath that orange stuff. So the orange stuff was thrust that way up and over the Chewacam Schist. I'll give you a shot of Kolchak Lake. So yes, we've got to get down.
It's a beautiful, unworldly
Scramble all the way to the lake shore, then hike around that shore of the lake, and then the cars are quite a ways back. So we started hiking at 7 a.m. We left Bijou at 5 a.m. this morning. Started hiking at 7, got up here, I'm old now, so I think it was 1:30 by the time we got up here to the pass.
Oof.
Okay, we'll keep it rolling on the way back to Liz, and then
It's going to take him the rest of the day to get back down.
Yeah.
Because getting
continuing
to the bottom of the
think
pass
about
is
the crystalline core more so than usual.
100% no.
And in this case, I'm blood, sweat, and tears in the crystalline core. My goodness. So, have you done this hike before? We're obviously, the goal was just to get to the top of Asgard Pass and then turn around and go back down to the trailhead. I know that many folks continue and do a loop down through Snow Lakes Trail. And I'm actually curious, veterans of this scene, Is it more common to do this loop starting at Snow Lakes and then coming up this way and then going
No.
down Asgard?
No, it's the other way
Or is
around.
it more common to start where we started this morning?
If you're
Pick
gonna
up to
do it as a
Kolchak Lake
if you're gonna do it as a through hike for sure. Hi,
and
Pixie
then out
Boy.
to Snow Lakes.
If you have done
That way. Okay, I
this
can't
this
stop
as a
filming
loop, you
obviously,
want to
but I think
go
I'm getting the hook.
from Kolchak to
Giving myself the
Snow
hook.
Lakes because it's downhill. If you do it the other way
July
around,
20th.
by the time you reach Asgard Pass, it's going to be nightfall
Thank you,
because
dear.
it's uphill all the way to the top of Asgard Pass, the reverse side, and then you got to go down 4,000 feet in like a mile and a half, and then you've got another 6
dear
miles
viewers.
out to the trailhead.
I love you.
So, and it's going to
And
be
goodbye.
like midnight, and you don't
From
want to go
Alpine
down
Lakes
a
Wilderness.
4,000 foot steep elevation gain in like, you know,
It's
a
got to be a
mile
parting
in
shot over here. Come on, you
the
kidding me?
dark. That sucks.
This got to be the parting shot.
Hello.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm.
I love you and goodbye. From Alpine
I
Lakes
love these
Wilderness.
hikes. So this is a geology professor
Just
who
north
does
of Ellensburg,
a bunch
Washington,
of local
USA.
Roadside geology essentially, and I also play Minecraft while I watch it. So I really enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Icicle Creek.
Another really
the
great
Icicle
hike
Creek
here in the
Canyon.
Pacific Northwest.
It's coming right through the guts of the Mount Stewart batholith, plutonic igneous rock. It's from the Mesozoic basement of Washington.
Yeah.
We're going to look at the Mount Stewart batholith here, but we're going to start by going upstream, out of the batholith, and into the Chewacum schist, a very different unit from this plutonic igneous rock.
So
thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
Igneous rock is like a volcanic rock that occurs from the caldera of a volcano. It's like the magma plug, essentially, and the schist is like cold pressure fused earth that's been uplifted via tectonic action. The Pacific Northwest is interesting geologically because we have a whole bunch of what's called exotic terrains, where we have land that was formed and then repeatedly collided with the west coast. Our fault line runs, from like Northern California all the way through to like Montana as like a series of fanning faults. And so there's all of these weird places where plates have get pushed up or shifted over or covered in lava because we have all of these volcanoes that do all of these things to the land while all of the tectonic forces of the Pacific plate interrupting with the North America plate are going on. And so we have a lot of unique geology as a direct result. Icicle Creek is in the middle of the Cascades, but closer to the eastern side. It's close to Leavenworth, Washington, and it's sort of in between that and the pass itself. But it is a really beautiful area, but it is a little bit more arid than the western side.
Well, we're just working our way up Icicle Creek here in the canyon.
He is from the eastern side half of the state, so he says
through
Creek
the heart
and not Greek.
The Mount Stewart batholith.
Yeah.
And we're continuing quite a ways up the canyon.
So it's an eroded volcano
go through the batholith
that has been uplifted
and get to significantly older rock.
Yeah, that's
where we start today.
And that shows the schist is the stuff that's coming up from underneath. That's ancient bedrock. At one point, it was seabed. This is the Chewacum
schist, and we're going to study it today, taking advantage of this light. But I think I also want to just, so we'll come back to this in other words.
I need more access, so let's see.
But I want to give you a sense of where I am and go down and explain the roar that you might be hearing at the moment.
I think I might need to have a bunch of
iron. So it's late morning.
Sweet. I have a bunch of sticks, so let's make some X's.
Got it? Okay. Let's just take a little walk before we bang on a few rocks, and I'd also like to read a few things to you, or with you. That light is good over there, so I don't
You
want to
know,
spend
it's
too much
probably
time
time
down
to
here.
finally invest in an actual iron sword. I will
I feel like,
eventually
hey,
run
look,
that out, so
cool.
that'll be that.
Wow, what are the odds?
Let's do another axe. We'll
Laundry
stockpile
detergent
them up for
bucket
now.
with a rock hammer and some geologic reports in it.
The world that I'm playing in was generated in like 1.6, maybe earlier, maybe 1.4. And then it has been progressively upgraded over the years. So it's a little bit of a wackadoodle world, which I love, because the caves are like super unique and weird. Yeah, that's the river itself. It's very cold. It comes from mountainous glaciers that are melting, and it's cutting through all of this uh, magmatic rock and schist and gneiss. Really interesting, beautiful area. You can swim here. There are little pool areas, and like it's. But again, it's very cold. Like the water is not far from freezing, and people die from it. And so because they get hypothermia, then the current will carry them away, and it's really hot.
Oh boy, this is nice.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
I mean, schist.
So I'm getting materials together to be able to make a road.
Oh, are you kidding me?
And also restocking my
Are you kidding me?
sapling. Look at that. It's a very beautiful formation. You get a lot of also glacial effects because this was all covered by there was an independent glacier aside from the North American glacier, which also intersected with the glacier that we had here. But because we had the mountain range already, when the ice age occurred, well, we had a mountain range. It's slightly different than the one we have now, but the uh, the mountains got the glaciers scoured the rock and created beautiful patterns in the rock as well. But then that looked like it was something that was part of a lava flow where the soils were mixing or the rocks were mixing. I mean, we've had a really bad return on the saplings from dark oak. Very concerning numbers. Like breaking even is not. I need a net positive on dark oak saplings. Yeah, all right. Net positive one. Jungle. Let's go check inside and see how many one-offs I've collected from the Alright, almost enough for two. Still trying to raise my overall numbers of trees so that I can just plant whatever kind of tree I want. Currently working on dark oak and jungle. Never really put a lot of effort into having a bunch of jungle wood, so no dark oak. I mean, I did in a previous world, in the Corpus Ocean SMP, I deliberately did a lot of dark oak, mainly because one of the other members, just to give him shit, he doesn't really like dark oak. I said, what are the two ugliest blocks that you think of in the game? And he said, oh, I really hate granite and I really hate dark oak. And so my entire build palette was dark oak and granite. looks glorious. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it actually really works. It looks very regal. I also went for a very like churchy theme, like a monastery. Yeah. Actually, no. I do my spacing photos, and it's so that I maximize my leaf coverage, so I get maximum satellites.
This is the Chewacum Schist. Another day, another exotic terrain. This is part of the Nason terrain, very different than what we've looked at so far on these little postage stamp episodes. Today I'm upstream from Leavenworth, Washington on the Icicle Creek in the canyon. Just drove through a bunch of Mount Stewart batholith. We'll be going back and looking at that. But I know very little about this schist unit. I've been reading a little bit. I want to share what I've learned with you so far. Hey, there's garnets here.
Ah, interesting.
Did you see any? Let's break a few of these open, take a look. And let's just make a few observations here. This doesn't look like the serpentinite, does it? I don't see the pillow stuff we saw down in Rimrock. I mean, I do see some quartz veins, do you? But this has a different look to me, maybe to you. Now, we're not going to know for sure until we break things open with a hammer. And that's where we're headed right now. Let's go to the magic pail. By the way, just this dirt here. Look at how sparkly this is. Look at how many jewels there are inside of this dirt. So that must mean something's kind of cool here. Is it cool? Well, this may be the Chewacum Schist, and it is, but there's some significant banding here in places. Do you see what I see? These cute little guys. These are garnets. In the schist. This is a garnet schist. And there's other metamorphic minerals that show up in this unit. Car. Alright, this stuff looks like it's going to put up a fight, so let me work with some of this stuff right here.
Let's see if we have a smarter plan.
That's pretty wimpy.
Have a proper tree farm out here.
Now, I'm still learning about focus on this camera. Thanks for those that have been emailing me about that. How well can you see these? I mean, these are not little iron stains on the surface. These are three-dimensional little garnets. I don't know, I guess I can't get them out without breaking them. All right, let's get a bigger slab. Actually, this might work. A weathered piece that helps us at least get it open.
Sweet.
Oh my gosh, Sparkle City. This is beautiful. Oh, I just figured something out. I use a different magnification on my camera, and while I'm holding this, I use my nose to touch the screen to get a little focus yellow square. I'm proud of myself. Now we'll come back to this. Come on. This is a pretty sample. This is a pretty sample. Let's get this thing open. Let's get this open. Ready? Hi-ya! Oh my gosh, we got decent garnets now.
About this world that makes getting saplings harder. I don't understand. I usually do not have a problem getting saplings. Usually the problem is getting rid of saplings.
Very pretty. Now the purpose of these short on the fly videos is to look at some rocks and be pretty basic about things. And the reading I'm sharing with you is also some basic rock unit ID kind of stuff.
Mark out.
Now that's different from what we'll be doing with the live streams.
It is this way.
Starting Wednesday, September 9th at 6 p.m. The live stream stuff is going to be a little bit more making connections between places. So there's a purpose for this and there's a purpose for that. That's the hope. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use this as a nice seat.
To make a bridge.
Looks like I'm not the first to have the idea.
I think it's also this way.
Okay, well, what's in the
Villager
basket?
Outpost. That's right.
Bunch of stuff. I think we'll
That
start
means that the village is actually that way.
with another black and white map that I colored by colored pencil this morning before I left the house. Let me change the...
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. So you know, I'm not doing thorough research half the time. I'm just grabbing what I can find in the front porch and just grabbing it and go. So, I mean, you know, we're approaching 50 years ago with Eric Erickson, who apparently was a graduate student at Eastern Washington University. Just happened to find this online, printed it out, and colored it with my pencils. So, Eric, if you're watching, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're still in geology, but I like your old school map that you did here, and I took it and colored it up. So, for all of us, I've used two primary colors here. There's a bunch of different pink, and you can see that the pink are all the Mount Stewart batholith, a big, huge blob of magma between 96 and 91 million years old. And you can see that Eric and certainly others have identified different subdivisions within the Mount Stewart batholith with all these different little symbols. But for our purposes, I don't care that much about that. The other color I've used that's important to us is green. And I think I'm going to change my color scheme when we really get starting to be serious about these terrains. But for now, I just grabbed green because it was handy. And a little bit of purple, which is the Ingalls terrain, what we now call the Ingalls terrain, that's kind of this stuff here. Okay, so a bunch of dark purple, Ingalls terrain, bunch of pink, Mount Stewart magma, essentially, this Mount Stewart batholith, and then green, which is really our new concept today with this episode, the Chewaucam schist. And notice back in the 1970s, there's like Jurassic question mark, Paleozoic question mark. We now have made tremendous progress on how to get specific ages and specific chemistries out of these units. But the mapping is good, and so let me help you see kind of where we are geographically. This is US Highway 2 going up and over the Cascades. And if I zoom in, he says, yeah, that's Stevens Pass right there. So if you know Stevens Pass, that's the mountain pass to the north of Snoqualmie Pass, which is not on this map. That's a landmark for you, US Highway 2, heading over towards Everett eventually. And here's a little part of US 2 as well, so it kind of swings underneath our units. Here's US 2 coming down, and then this is the little Bavarian town, it wasn't always Bavarian, of Leavenworth. In blue is what I have done today. I've driven the Icicle Creek. And I've driven up Icicle Creek, And to be honest, I'm not sure where in the green we are, but you saw the sign that I gave you on purpose. What was it? Chatter something. Campground and trailhead. So we're in the green, we're in the Chewaucam schist. Now, this is a nice opportunity for us to see that both the Ingalls and the Chewaucam were here before the pink blob came up from below. So in other words, out of these three units, the Mount Stewart granite, quote unquote, granitic material, is younger than the green and the purple. Why? Well, we have these invasive relations that we know that this stuff ate its way up through, melted a bunch of the Chewaucam schist, melted a bunch of the Ingalls tectonic zone, and got up through this area here. And of course, it's been sheared off now, and this is super mountainous. Here's Mount Stewart and the very popular Alpine Lakes Wilderness, Kolchak Lake, and then hike out to Snow Lakes. Here's Icicle Ridge separating Icicle Creek from the big metropolis of Leavenworth, where you can buy a bratwurst and saltwater taffy and lederhosen. Okay? So we're really looking at this Chewaucam schist for the first time. At least I am, seriously. And I just tried to show you a few units. Now, this is something I've always had on my bookshelf. There's two volumes of this thing. This is volume 2. And I want you to notice that this is 2 volumes of field trips that were tied to the major annual meeting of the Geological Society of America in Seattle, Washington in late October of 1994. Now, I was a young puppy when this happened. I had just moved to Ellensburg in 1992. I remember mostly being at that meeting, coordinating student help, and we were all maintaining the slide projectors. That's how long ago this was. You didn't do PowerPoints, you didn't do laptops, you actually had slide projectors. Ask an old person about slide projectors next time you get a chance. So this was edited by 2 of my most favorite geologists, Don Swanson and Ralph Hagerud. I think very highly of both of them. And I want to read, actually I read this for the first time this morning. I assume this is Don writing this more than Ralph, but I don't know that. But I want to read some of this to you because I think it's quite interesting to put this into context, especially with what Darrell Cowan had to say in our interview with him. This is volume 2 of a 2-volume set, field trips, blah, 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 Seattle meeting. The last GSA annual meeting in the Pacific Northwest was in 1977. And since then, notable progress has been made on all geologic fronts, perhaps more so than in most other regions in the U.S., in part because of the long way we had to go to catch up with the rest of the country, and in part because of the high quality of research that has been conducted during the past 2 decades. We believe the articles in these 2 volumes provide stimulating sampling of the ongoing work themselves, add to the rapidly expanding body of knowledge about Cascadia and adjacent provinces. The theme of the 1994 meeting is, or was, at the leading edge. These papers fit this theme well. I can't hold it. I'm going to show you a little bit more. I'll read a little bit more. Field guides are particularly useful in that they permit interested people, professionals, students, and laypersons to examine exactly what the author is writing about. Change that. Thank you. As such, the guides form not only a way to check the science done by the author, but also serves to teach all those who study the outcrops and consider their implications. All too often, formal papers are lacking in these regards. In our experience, field guides take on a life of their own after the meeting has passed. I totally agree with that, Don and Ralph. There is something to be said for visiting the outcrops singly or with small groups and taking as much time as desired to understand what you are seeing. We hope and expect that the guides in these 2 volumes will have a useful life far past October of 1994. Now, I really love that. And this is really before the internet. And so these guys are kind of seeing the future in this sense. I don't think they were imagining the internet, but I think they were thinking about how to share this information with a broad audience, even the layperson, as they say. So this, in my view, and this is my area of most interest. Come on, Gizmo.
I mean, I'm sure there's more in there, but
I'm very interested in how geology has gotten out of their little club mentality and into many parts of society worldwide, not just the U.S. What's going on here? Thank you. And so hats off to these guys. Now I want to page to the 2. So in case you're a little confused, you can actually get into these field guides then, and they have, this is before GPS, and cell phones, so they're giving you mileage. Now we enter this, go to the Western Ross Lake Overlook, and then here's the mileage. Go 1 mile exactly. There's the trailhead. Go another whatever, get to this outcrop, and they describe it for you. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm following much of what was done. So this is Ralph Hagerud putting together an absolutely amazing field trip, multi-day field trip, going through the North Cascades. And I'll be using this a fair amount. I kind of forgot I had this. And then today I'm using another field trip from this volume by Scott Paterson. I guess. Bob Miller, there's Bob Miller again, etc. And all of these field trip guides have these stops. So I'm just grabbing a couple of the stops. I enjoyed Ralph's beginning of his field trip, so let me read that portion to you, and then I'll put this down. Seems like you don't mind reading out of these papers, so I'm going to just keep going with that. Where was that part that was, I got a big chuckle out of it. Yeah. So this is much of what I'm going to be trying to do with our live streams, 26 live streams this fall with exotic terrains as the theme. I'll be using much of the hard work by these guys, etc. But I like Ralph saying this. Annual precipitation, so he's talking about folks who are going to be on this October 1994 field trip. Annual precipitation in the North Cascades locally exceeds 3 meters. Some years winter arrives early and renders parts of the route we describe impassable in late October, though this is unlikely. It is likely that at times we will be wet, cold, and miserable.
Yeah. That's accurate.
You know what? I am going to use the hell out of this. Sorry, Patrick. Basically, Ralph Hagerud and co-authors are taking fresh, well, as the terrains as they knew them in the early 90s, and plotted them. And this is what I've been trying to do, kind of on my own. So I'm so thrilled to see this. Laying it out by time. And a little thumbnail of each of the terrain units that Ralph puts together, including, here we go, the Chewachem Schist. The Chewachem Schist. I just showed you some of it. That's the stuff with the garnet.
Let's see.
It's essential.
I want to go.
It's an essential component of the Nason terrain, late Cretaceous politic schist. That simply means a metamorphic rock that used to be mud on the ocean floor. Locally bears a metamorphic mineral called kyanite that formed after a metamorphic mineral called andalusite. And this Chewachem Schist is equivalent to another schist unit up in British Columbia called the Settler Schist. So these are the kinds of things that I'm hoping to do. All right. Can we do something else? Is this worth it? I got one hand holding Gizmo, I got one hand holding the map. I'm out of hands. No, I'm not. I have a lap. So I left Leavenworth. Oh, they're using pink and green too. Wow, it's almost like I planned that. So I've driven through the Mount Stewart granodiorite and I've gotten to this portion here of the Chewachem Schist. The green is the Chewachem Schist. Now please note that there's a lot more Chewachem Schist to the north. There's a lot more Chewachem Schist way over here into the crest of the Cascades. We're now north of US 2 and it's still Chewachem Schist. So this is a lot of green Chewachem Schist and purple Ingalls. And then up through those two, I guess we'd call it a stitching Pluton, which I'd never thought about till right now, the Mount Stewart magma between 96 and 91. And yes, I can't hold it. If these two guys are together and they're soldered on to the edge of North America, and then this pink magma is coming up through and cooling and crystallizing, it wasn't here. It was in Mexico. He pauses for dramatic effect. Now also notice that we have major faults. These heavy black lines are faults. And so it's important to state that lots of the boundaries of these terrains, they're bounded by faults. So if we think of a quilt with each patch of the quilt being a different terrain, we need to realize that the stitches in the quilt are not gradual transitions from one to the next. They are major fault, fault, fault. There's roads on here too, but you get the idea. Okay, I want to show you one more thing. You remember Darrell Cowan, who we interviewed a few programs back. Here's that book that I mentioned. Oh, autographed. Forgot that. That was a few years ago. Marley is a masterful map maker, and what she has done for us is tremendously helpful. So I'm going to be doing this a lot in the backyard with our live streams, but I simply want to point out, can you see the nascent terrain?
Oh, I'm so lost.
There. And Marley's helping us see that the nascent terrain, the Swakane terrain, the Little Jack, and the Chelan Mountains terrain, she's colored them all different shades of purple because collectively they are part of something that most people call the Cascade Crystalline Core. The crystalline core. And we're just introducing that now, and you're going to have to wait till the live streams to really see the significance of the crystalline core. But if you know this country, now you see State Route 20, don't you? Going up and over the North Cascades. You're crossing the high country, and the high country is this crystalline core. So our goal is to group these terrains by affinity, and the previous inliers that we've had in our series here have not really been in the crystalline core, except for the Ingalls. So the Ingalls, the Chewaucum, and this Mount Stewart batholith are part of this nascent scene. Thank you. Okay, well, there's a mineralogist named Chris Mattinson who's in our department, very well known. Also did his training at Stanford University down in the Bay Area of California. And this is from Chris's Geology 320 class, where they every fall take a geology field trip on a Saturday up to what we're looking at today, the Chewaucum Schist and the Mount Stewart batholith. And so this is from a few years ago. And a look at Chris's lab here. And this is what the students are turning in, just in case you're curious. A Geology 320 student is turning in detailed sketches of the outcrops and getting points for field notebook and written lab report, that sort of thing. But I wanted to share with you what Chris wrote for our intermediate geology students about the Mount Stewart batholith. Much of the batholith is 2-pyroxene diorite, quartz diorite, and biotite hornblende tonalite, encompassing a silica range of 52 to 71 weight percent. Of the various magmatic processes that likely operated in the batholith, including crystal fractalization, mixing, and wall rock assimilation, fractionation appears to be the dominant mechanism to account for much of the wide range in composition. The parental magma is thought to be a dioritic melt from a mafic source. Much of the variation can be attributed to fractionation of plagioclase, pyroxene, hornblende, and ilmenite. All right, much of that might be Greek to you. The basic message is we do have a wide range of plutonic igneous rock looks, chemistries, and textures. And so there were many, many places that we could have stopped. Grab the keys. Don't lock the keys in the car. The keys would be where? Evelyn, where are the keys? There. let's this is where Chris stops with his class.
Chunk air.
But we can realize that there's many different compositions within the Stuart batholith. We don't care that much. I'm putting words in your mouth now. We don't care that much because we want to do something regional. But again, we're looking at this pink stuff, which varies from gabbro all the way up to darn near pure granite. And if you've lost track, we are in here we're driving back towards Leavenworth, and we're stopping to get our hands on a little bit of Mount Stuart batholith. Okay? I mean, even just looking at these boulders here, which are all from the Mount Stuart batholith, I hope you can see the range in appearance. I don't mean size now, right? I just mean percentage of black minerals, percentage of white minerals, gray minerals.
There's the village. Alright. I don't think I want to make the road.
This is a big area, this Mount Stuart batholith. It's more than just Mount Stuart itself. But we should bang. We should bang with the best of them. Big man down in the post. Let's do some banging. Mouse in the house. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We are 100% going to move into the butcher's place. No.
I think we're doing well right off the bat. I like that one. Oh, yeah. So this is the stuff that Merle, I don't know if we're lucky, we can find an old drill hole where Merle and his grad students were drilling into this Pluton to record the paleomagnetic direction. Well, this is cute. Oh yeah, you look at stuff like this, you can see geology students have been here wailing away. Not as beautiful, weathered. Kind of like that other spot better than this one.
Okay, well this road can just straight up go away.
Party then. I gotta say, from a distance, this almost looks like a gabbro, and then you kind of get up on it. Well, it still is pretty dark, isn't it? So there's portions of this Mount Stuart batholith that are quite mafic in appearance, and there are some true gabbros. This is getting close, I gotta say. change that. Yeah. So sharp, cut my hand on it. Yeah, and then right next door, look at how light colored this guy is. Too big to break open. So, in case you're curious, there was a major alpine glacier that came down this canyon and did plenty of scouring. So, you know, a lot of these rounded guys to me look like some glacial boulders that were brought in here from different parts of the Mommy, why is that man sucking his thumb? You got a feel for this Stewart granodiorite? This Mount Stewart batholith? We'll be talking a lot about it in the weeks to come. Stuff is sharp. Like literally. So you're like, I don't know, what would I call this? Well, I'd call this a quartz diorite. A lot of cleavage planes.
That's right, there's only the one bed. God damn it.
You know, it's miles and miles of this canyon. I mean, it's not the Sierra Nevada batholith, but it's a pretty big batholith for these parts. Well, what do you think? That's enough for today? Chewacam Schist, Mount Stewart, batholith, two very important units when discussing the exotic terrain history here in central Washington. Only an hour from Ellensburg. Time for me to go home, take a nap. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. I love you, and goodbye.
This town has no bell. Just gonna be awkward later. Because they currently don't have a meeting hall. Okay. Let's see what the next one of these should be. Actually, you know what? It's like 1 in the morning. I really should go to bed. I think that's the plan, actually. I'm gonna camp out in this little village, and then I'll see about how that'll work out. Good night. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, whatever time zone it is for you.